Welcome back to Different Dadpreneurs. I'm your host, Fife Bearclough. On this podcast, we dive into the lives of entrepreneur dads, exploring the intersection of being a father and a business owner. This week, my guest is Mike Abramowitz, who's the co-founder of Better Than Rich. He's a dad of two and extremely passionate about helping business owners get their time back. This episode is both raw and real as we dove into Mike's early life and the challenges with getting pregnant, having a son born premature, and their experience in the early days of becoming a dad. We also get really tactical, diving into how to manage time better, some of the things that he sees with business owners, keeping them stuck, and how to address control issues in the business, which is one of the main issues keeping owners from building a resilient business. This episode was emotional and raw and tactical and nuts and bolts. Mike is gracious with my opening fumble. As you'll see, he's a giver, and I'm really grateful to have had him on. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to another episode of Different Dadpreneurs. Today I've got Mike Abramowitz on today from Better Than Profits. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And it's Better Than Rich.
Man, that's a big flop.
It's okay. Better Profits is really good too, but Rich is the company. Better Than Rich.
Yeah. Okay, sweet Fife. Off to a great start.
All good, man.
We'll have some fun here, and want to kind of set the foundation of who you are, what some of your experience has been, and without going through all the hits, would love to just start with when you first realized you were an entrepreneur.
So my dad owns a plumbing business. He's owned one for 50 years. He's 84 years old. So my entire life, I witnessed my dad own a plumbing business. And then my brothers, I'm the youngest of 8. So my older siblings all were pretty much like in sales or owning their own business too. So I kind of was raised in an environment where it's like, what you put in is what you get out. I even had like a little side hustle when I was in high school of, I used to throw like giant parties at my house, and I had a vending machine in my house, and I would load it up with like candy bars and, condoms and, just like anything that I could. And then older sibling would get like a keg, and I would sell $5 a cup, and I would flip a party and turn it into like $400 or $500 profit on a party for like graduation or something like that. So I guess I was like a little hustler entrepreneur before I knew what it was. And then I got into sales with Cutco kitchen knives, and I started selling Cutco as a college kid. And that's really what turned it on, where it's like, oh, okay, what I put in is what I get out. Like this is way better than like working a job, and getting those commission checks were huge. It was awesome. And then I invested into real estate and saw an upside there. So that was kind of foundational in those early, like in those teenage or late teenage years, early 20s, as far as foundational, where it's like, okay, there's no way I'll ever like work for someone else, after kind of getting exposed to this and seeing the benefits. I've also hit the valleys. We could talk about those valleys too, but those benefits kind of hooked me.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in a family of 8?
So my mom was married 3 times, my dad twice, but so a lot of half siblings, but we all were raised, like kind of grew up together. My oldest sibling is over 20 years older than me. So it was, it's just all I ever knew. But now looking back on it, I'll be 40 this month, next week actually. And I'm like, man, that was so dysfunctional. So like my nephew's like 3 years younger than me, and all my nieces and nephews were like the ages of my friends to their cousins and stuff like that. So it was just interesting. But what's really fascinating is my dad, we just got a new brother because he had an oopsie when he was younger, and ancestry.com found out that I have a 9th brother. So I'm actually youngest of 9. So Chuck is like the new big brother who came into the picture. So he's like maybe 25 years older than me now. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
And what was it like growing up with a dad running a business? What were some of the early learnings for you?
I learned how to work hard. I learned ambition. I learned how to take risks from him. I witnessed him being very generous. For my bar mitzvah, he took me and we painted like a synagogue. And then I witnessed him just be generous to the homeless. And same thing with my mom. We always took in like pets. We had a ton of dogs and cats and stray animals that we always took in, and even letting like friends stay with us if they had like broken homes. So it was just open house, so generous. There's a lot of great character traits that I was able to establish from my parents and from my dad. And when I would go work with him, I would see like he was kind of a different person when he was at work in his plumbing business than he was at home. Like he was almost like more happy. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's just like a little happier at work because he was like inside of his element. He worked 6 days a week. He grinded a lot and he just like had his own like connections. He was just like, like talking shop with all these just like blue collar, like, New Jersey. Like if you could imagine just like a rugged New Jersey dude that's just like wears jeans and, tennis shoes and a flannel shirt. Like it's just like my dad, but he was a bodybuilder, growing up. So he's kind of fit. And that's, he's 84 years old working 6 days a week. So
He's still working.
he's still working. Yeah. 6 days a week right now to the day. So still answers all the calls. I mean, it's wild to think about, but I think he'd be bored otherwise. Like he still goes to the gym like 3-4 days a week. He goes dancing with his girlfriend every, couple can, it's almost like when my mom passed, he like became like a grown teenager. So over the last like 19 years, he's been just like a wild teenager, just enjoying like the final chapter and quarter of his life and in this in a weird, unique way.
Yeah. And what about things that you've learned from him about parenting and being a dad?
So what I had just shared were a lot of the examples. There were also a lot of warnings. So there was a lot of warnings, and I'll stay with all the examples until you ask me questions that invite the warnings. But when it came to parenting, what I learned, and are we staying on the examples side of this, or do we want to go into the warnings a little bit?
I'm curious about some of the warnings because I think there's wisdom there as well.
Okay, so I'll try to find some of the examples first. I don't think he'll listen to this, but just in case, he was real loose. That means he kind of like trusted. He gave some level of trust, I guess, to me because he was loose, not that much with the discipline aspect. My mom was more the disciplinary. He provided, and I mean, full transparency, Five. I've been going through some reparenting stuff, like reparenting my inner child and like little Michael, because there was so much shit that did not happen that I wish did happen. So I'm trying to like pull for my dad right now with some of these things that you're asking. But man, there was a lot of negligence from a parenting side and a lot of reworking and reparenting little Michael that I almost like wish I would have got from him. So it's a great conversation. I could go in the raw real. I don't know like if it's a clean show, but there's a lot of like messed up or effed up things that like I kind of like either witnessed or was exposed to that I wish not that I wish it would have been different, but I think it would have created a little bit less trauma in growing up. So we can have a real talk if that's cool. Is it a clean show? Can I use because once I start getting passionate about
we can
stuff.
let it roll. We can let it roll.
Okay. Cool. So, I mean, real talk. My sister Liz, she was 2 years older than me. She just beat the shit out of me my whole like childhood. So like, I wish my parents would have stepped in and protected me a little bit more. And they were tough on her. Like my mom used to say things and my dad used to say things like, I got a queer as a son and a dyke as a daughter. Like, I mean, like stuff like that was just like, cause I was like the sensitive youngest baby kid. Like I was kind of a sensitive kid. Like that should have been okay, but it wasn't. Like I had to be like my older brothers. I had to be a guy's guy, like my dad was a bodybuilder. So I had to be healthy. Instead, I like was overweight. I started eating away and like numbing the pain that I was feeling as a kid. So I would like sit in my room and sneak Twinkies and like just like think about what life would have been like getting kidnapped by another family or like not being a part of this family or not even being around. Like, there were some of those like low moments as a kid that I wish that I didn't necessarily have, because now as I have a 4.5-year-old and 1.5-year-old, like that just sucks to have a kid feel isolated and feel lonely and feel like he's not a part of his tribe and he's like an outcast, and doesn't really feel like that he has like a trusted guide. It was really confusing. It's confusing as a kid being parented to like be a good boy, but not know what a good boy is. Like that's, and if it means to be a good boy, to be out of congruency with who I was like born to be, like there's conflict there. So, I mean, I going into high school, I was like 250 pounds, you know, I was overweight. I had pimples, freckles, braces. I was kind of bullied, you know? So there was a lot of confidence issues due to that stuff. And, you know, and him as a parent, like I'll give you an example. He's told me the story my entire life, Fife, ready? So he said, man, you were a kid, you were just courageous. You would just jump into the deep end of the pool while I was swimming. And like, I would, you know, I would come in, I would get you, I'd put you out of the pool, and then you would just jump right back into the deep end. You had no fear. You were just ready to jump. And you were swimming since you were like 3 or 4 years old, man. He's told me that same story 50 times in my life, 100 times. So now as a dad with a 4.5-year-old, 1.5-year-old, Fife, where do you think my mind's going? My mind as a dad right now, I'm like, huh, if there's a 4-year-old by the pool and I'm swimming, who's watching my kid? So I asked my dad this question. I was like, so dad, like you told me the story. I was like, oh, I'm a courageous kid jumping in the pool. But now as a dad, I'm like, who was watching me? That's really negligent. Like that's super irresponsible. You're like just leaving me around the pool while you're swimming laps and I'm just jumping in. That's like the model of my dad's world, because his dad wasn't around. He was like a loner, like cockroaches and bed bugs, and like just like figured stuff out. So there's a part of him that just figured that that's how I would need to be raised too. Or so he provided the way he needed to provide, but emotionally, man, he didn't know how to parent, because he wasn't parented. So how could he couldn't give what he didn't know, or what he didn't have. So for me to be able to like understand that, I have empathy for him. And now like this healthy, balanced person that I've become can kind of go back into some of those, you know, traumas that I experienced. So I don't project some of that onto my kids. And it's hard. It's easier said than done, but that's the work for sure.
And how long have you been working on some of that reparenting and inner child stuff?
Really, since I became a dad. I mean, I joined a group called Front Row Dads, and there's a lot of family men with businesses in that group, and we do some of that deep work. And I would say really since I became a dad, and even before I became a dad, like I knew that I wanted to like be a little bit more present, but it's hard stuff, man. Holy crap. Like I knew I wanted to be a dad, but at the same time, I just didn't know when. Like, I don't think I would ever like have been ready, but now like I'm like kind of like an older dad, I guess. But man, it's hard stuff. They're great, and it's challenging in all the right ways. And I'm grateful for it. I really am. And at the same time, it's hard stuff, because as I'm parenting them also, like trying not to project the insecurities that I have. Like I'll listen to like Dr. Becky Kennedy and I'm like crying. I'm like, that's all I wanted as a kid. How can I give that to my kids? I'm like, oh, that's so hard. Like the ego, and like, it's just, it's tough stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, because a lot of people might hold back and not be as open. So I appreciate you just bearing it. And curious about when kids did enter the picture for you. And I think you've got a bit of a unique story. I read up a little bit with your son, James.
Yeah. I'll give you the raw, real, hard truth story. And the real hard truth story is my wife and I got married 2017, October, and then we started trying for kids right away in January. We couldn't get pregnant. So we tried for like 5-6 months or so. She's getting all checked out and whatnot. So it turned out that I was diagnosed with male factor infertility. So I had a low sperm count. And when I went in, I was like double-digit sperm. Like the average male has like 20 million. I had like 20. So it was like, yeah, you're not going to be able to get her pregnant, and you have to go IVF. So that was a huge gut check. You know, that was tough pill to swallow. Created a lot of just challenges right in those early stages. So we immediately went into the IVF route, and it's hard shit. So I don't know if anybody on the show has ever talked about IVF or not, but
No.
just to give a little bit of context. So my wife, over the course of our resume of pregnancies, we've had our first one was Hannah, who was a stillbirth at 20 weeks. And then we had a second one, which was that was 2020. So Hannah was 2019, stillbirth at 20 weeks, which was really hard. James was 2020. James was born at 1 pound 4 ounces. He was a micro-preemie. We were in the NICU with him. He was due in April, and he was born in New Year's Eve. And we're in the NICU with him for 8.5 months, 254 days. So we were in the NICU with him for quite some time. And then while we were in the NICU, miraculously, I was able to get Lindsay pregnant naturally, because from 2018 until 2021, I went through like a natural path of like how to increase my sperm count. I went into like doctors, and I got all these analysis done, and I was tracking it, and there was no cure other than like natural remedies. So I did them all. Like there was a list. It was like acupuncture, meditation, cold therapy. There was like wear different underwear, change your diet. I was strict vegan for 7 years. And then they're like, you got to go high protein diet. And I was like, just change it all, increase testosterone through exercise and working out. Like, so it was all like, it was essentially become a perfect human. That's essentially what it was. It was hard shit, man. So for 3 years, and then my count raised from like 30 double digits, and then it went to 700,000, and then it went to 2 million, and it maxed out at 7 million, which is still on the low side, but it was higher than it ever was. Naturally, she got pregnant, and that was a miscarriage. That was our third, but then we only had one embryo left, and we went in for a whole nother round of an embryo, like a egg retrieval. We got one extra embryo, and that was Jack. And Jack was also a miscarriage for our fourth pregnancy. And then our fifth one, which is Ella, who's been frozen in time the entire time since James. So she was in the same batch with James and Ella, and she was born 18 months ago. And she was the healthiest can be, a perfect little baby girl that's been frozen in time for a few years. So after about 1,500 injections to my wife, a stillbirth, 2 miscarriages, a medically complex child, and now a healthy one, it's been quite a journey of emotional complexity that is beyond words to even express to become a parent. So just to get to the dad role was really hard. And now that I'm in the dad role, it's really hard. Just so, and then I have a business. And then I want to be healthy. And then, I want to be a good dad. And I want to be a good husband. And I want to like give back to the community, and I want to like have friends and shit. Like it's the unspoken truths of the situation. And I feel like God has gifted me with the ability to navigate it through my life circumstances, with mom dying when I was 20 and getting into sales and understanding business and navigating the market collapse, and just like all the challenges of like life and the valleys of my 20s that like kind of prepared me for the season of life. So I feel equipped to have navigated it. And now that James is like great, he was on a ventilator for 2 years, and he's great. He's doing awesome. And he was on a feeding tube and his G tube, and he's still there with the G tube, but he's like only uses it for hydration and meds now. And we're transitioning off of that. And it's like to be free, like we've conquered the battle. I'm almost like the war hero that conquered the battle, and now he's a civilian and doesn't know how to fucking adapt to being a civilian, and just trying to do the best they can. And that's kind of where the therapy comes into play, and some of the couples counseling, and just like trying to do the best I absolutely can without getting too far deep into any of the addictions that I may have abused in the past, or avoided, or just buried into, whether they're healthy addictions or not so healthy addictions, just to try to navigate some tough seasons. So I know it's a lot there, so we could go in whatever direction seems like.
Well, and again, like, really want to acknowledge the willingness to go there. I haven't had any conversations with friends about some of this kind of stuff, and I think having it shared and out there, I think people feel heard if they're going through it as well. And I'd be curious what you would share with somebody going through that right now, or like what you would have wanted or needed to hear as you were going through, like, that's an insane roller coaster.
I had my business coach, and he was like a life coach, business coach at the time, which was extremely helpful. So I hired him on in 2016, and he was brought on to kind of help me with business predictability, because I knew I wanted to work from home. I know I wanted to be more present as I was like getting ready to propose. So he kind of helped me navigate business systems so that way I could buy back my time. So that was super helpful because the stress of business, like not having to have the stress of business on top of everything, because like during those 8.5 months, my business ran without me and still produced 7 figures in sales without me there. So I was able to put $250,000 in revenue without being inside the business. So if I didn't have that in place, it would have really made things that much more complicated. So by hiring that coach when I didn't know I was going to enter in a tough season, and by building systems and predictability into my business before we entered into those tough seasons, that's the biggest counsel that I could give to someone is like JFK said, work on the roof when the sun is shining. So by making that choice was one of the best choices I could have made. And then by building some of those systems and having automations and like simplifying the business and creating like almost like McDonaldifying my business to where anyone can step in and run it, and documenting and creating processes and procedures, that was critical. So that would be number one counsel is if you're an entrepreneur and everything runs through you like it was with me, where you're grind season and doing it all, we got to establish predictability in the business, because if and when life circumstances come up, the business, if I was the businessman, I would have been faced with a much more difficult choice than I was, because I was just able to work on the business from the hospital and like be like not having to run every single play. I was able to just run the place through my team and through those processes and systems that I built out. That would be number one. If there was more for someone that's going through this, I would have probably get a little emotional here, but I would have really loved to have reduced some of that pressure that I was putting on myself to try to fix it all, because it was really like, there's the residue of that pressure that I've been feeling recently to just like try to be that perfect human. It's just not possible. And to have like all that together and not like, and just feel like, almost on the front to my wife and to my friends, it's like, I got it. But like, in not even knowing I didn't got it. Like I was actually convinced that I had it under control, but looking back on it, man, it was tough. Like Facebook groups I joined with like male factor infertility, it was like every guy that was in there was getting a divorce. There was like nowhere to go. And this is before I was a dad. So I didn't have like front row dads. I didn't have like men I was surrounded by that I could like have real talk with. No one in my life could relate to the situation that I was in. So it was super, super lonely, very isolated. So I would encourage someone who's in that situation is, I had my coach, which was great. He's now my business partner. He's my brother. I'm forever grateful for him in that relationship. I wish I would have had a tribe of men at that season that I could maybe resource a little bit more to have deeper, real, meaningful conversations with that can help me have an escape valve and really get through to me and say, dude, I don't care. You're human. Like what you're doing is noble and it's amazing. And I'm proud of you, but man, you're holding a lot together. So, and not having mom in the situation, like that motherly nurture, like would have been really nice to have. And I didn't have that either. So it was just like all masculine, no feminine. Oh, that was tough. So now I'm like, there's residue of that I'm living as we speak right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting me a little bit. So I appreciate that. Yeah. One thing I think, so kind of two for me that I heard there. One is just the timing of structure of business allowed for an ability to be with family. And I think often when I'm talking with dads, it's like, I just want to be home with the kids. I don't want to be burnt out as much. Like that's why I need to structure the business. And I don't think a lot of people think about some of the negatives that might happen. And what you shared there is like, you can't predict some of this things that happen in life. So it's not only just like, I need to get out of burnout and just spend more time with my family. It's like, how do I create a more resilient setup of life and business such that you can meet the demands that might come your way? And I had a similar guy on a couple episodes ago, and his son was in his 20s and had like a horrible accident, and he was ripped out of his business. And fortunately, he had built enough systems in that allowed for him to like be with family at that point. So it's like there's so many levels to why it's important and how hard it can be too to set that up. And I know it's something that you're very good at as well. So I'd be curious about how you went about that.
And I'd love to, change those gears into the tactical practical. So the listener isn't just sitting here saying like, oh my God, that's so inspirational. It's like, cause that, that's important. And I think it's important to hit on, the tough story, because it's the truth. It is my lived experience. And there is a hero in this story that did figure some shit out. And that's what's nice about anybody that's listening is you could be the hero of your story too. So like, if you do just want to buy back time, so you're not answering a phone call during every vacation that you're on and your kid's just watching you, be on vacation, but also be at work mode, and like they're witnessing it all, like that might be enough of a compelling reason. But you also see hurricanes coming through and forest fires coming through and tornadoes coming through, like disasters happen, debt happens, market changes, jobs get laid off, so debt or disasters or death of loved ones, like some of these things just happen. Like my sister's, one of her really good friends just passed away randomly this morning. Like what the heck, like things happen. So it is a good insurance policy to have predictability in the business. And what I did is after Ella was born, I took a 3-month paternity leave to just reevaluate my current business, because our business Better Than Rich that Andrew and I started was to help entrepreneurs and help business owners buy back time and create business predictability. So we've now helped almost 300 business owners in some way, helping them with business predictability through what he taught me and what we've collaborated and built together. But I took 3 months to just take a step back and just really think about, if I had to really narrow it down to the simplistic principles that actually our students and our clients have used and done to help them have buyback time, like Andrea Bryant, who has been able to, she went from working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks in her home staging company to now having 2 offers and working less than 30 hours a week, and is 4x to revenue. Like, what did she do? What did we teach her? What were the principles that helped her get there? Not just for me, but also for her. How did Tamara go from burning 60 to 70,000 a month in her mental health clinician business to turning it to a plus $130,000 a month within 8 months of us working together? How did she do this? What was the turnaround? So it's like, I really sat down, I started thinking about what was the curriculum, and I broke it down to what is called now the Time Rich 6. And the Time Rich 6 are like these 6 pillars or 6 principles of how to build business predictability for business owners. And I'll go over them a little quickly, and then we could park in whatever one makes the most sense, if that's okay, Fife. Mm-hmm. Does that work? Okay.
Yeah.
So the 6 pillars and the principles was, number 1 is boundaries. So what did Andrew, Tamara, and myself and these other business owners do is create boundaries, meaning, what are the priorities that I want to protect? I built the business to be a vehicle for my life. And if it's a vehicle for my life and it's not my life, then what are the priorities that I need to protect? What are the things that are most important to me? If it's the most important for me to be home by dinner at 6 p.m., I got to build a business that protects that. If I want to have health or contribution to my community, whatever it is, protect priorities, boundaries, number 1. Number 2, communication guidelines. Communication guidelines, meaning, how does somebody get my attention? What deems an email versus a text versus a call versus an in-person meeting? Whether that's a client or a prospect or someone on my team, what are the guidelines on how somebody gets my attention? That's number 2, communication guidelines. Number 3, systems. Systems, what are the if-thens for the client journey and also my talent journey? So what are the if-thens for the client journey, meaning from marketing to sales to onboarding to retention? Like, what is the if-thens, like a flow chart? Same thing for hiring and onboarding and placing ads and meeting cadence for my team. What is the if-thens for the system, which are the systems? And that means number 4 must be playbooks, which are SOPs, the documentation of those systems. How are all those systems being documented? So that's all the playbooks are, the SOPs, the processes, the documentation of those systems. And then number 5 is the team. Who is executing those plays? There's 2 types of team members. There's experts and there's doers. Experts are bid there, done that's. They charge a premium. We got to pay more for them. And then there's doers who are executing those plays, those playbooks. And we want to make sure that ideally those playbooks and those systems are simplified so we can plug doers in, which is the team. And then number 6 is the tech, the technology. What is the technology that those team members are using? That's where AI plugs in, or Zapier, or CRMs, or project management softwares, or a Service Titan, or Job, or House Call, or whatever the technology is. So that is the framework of boundaries, and then communication guidelines, systems, playbooks, team, and then tech. And then a business owner hears that list and we have a conversation. We say, which of those do you feel most stuck? Or which is the lever that we can pull that could 3x revenue and buy back 10 hours of your time every single week? And they are like, well, lead gen, which one is that? I need more leads in my business. That's the one thing. So it's like, okay, so that means it's probably, if you're saying lead gen is the problem that we need to solve for, let's make sure that that's the case. Let's go into the system. Lead generation, which is the top of the funnel of the client journey. If you got 1,000 new leads tomorrow, what is the client journey that those 1,000 leads are going to go through? How many of those would you convert? How many of those could you retain? How many of those would have a really good fulfillment on the back end where they would be willing to give you a rating and a review and more referrals? So is it really lead gen that's going to solve the problem? Maybe today, but if you're pumping leads into a broken system, that might actually not be the solution. Then they might say, well, then I need more sales. Maybe let's talk about it. What is the actual conversion rate? Well, the actual conversion rate when we're in front of a client is 30%. Okay, well, if we move that from 30% to 50% or 60%, does that 3x the business? Does that buy back your time, 10 hours a week of your time? Let's see. Let's actually look and see. But how many of those are converted? So if it's 30%, well, is it 3 out of 10? Okay, you're only doing 10 calls a month. So if you bump from 3 calls a month closed to 6 calls a month closed, does that actually raise the revenue and the predictability? Maybe. Awesome. So we're looking at the data, we're asking the second, third, and fourth, and fifth question to make sure it is actually the lead domino. Because once we tackle that one, we push that one down, boom, it creates momentum. And then that momentum is where the predictability happens. The team is executing. We put the technology in place and that one's flowing. And then we figure out what the next lead domino is. Push that one and let that one flow. But we do have to take a little bit of a peek under the hood, ask the second, third, fourth, fifth question and know we're building a machine. It's not just like a quick fix, get rich quick scheme or something like that. Very long answer. But that is the Time Rich 6. That is like kind of the foundation that we teach, that we not only teach, that we implement and install into business owners' businesses for them and with them.
Yeah. And of those 6, is there a common theme where people, when they start working with you, are blocked the most? Or like is there a theme where people need to go first?
Typically, yes. It's sometimes it's like sell them what they want, but to give them what they need, so oftentimes it's control issues is number one, clear off the board. It's like letting go of control is what we have to work on. So we'll sell, this is what we're going to help you with. But what we really are doing is we got to get you, everything that's in your mind, we got to get documented. So that way somebody else could take that over. And it's not that we want you out of every seat on the bus, but we got to get you out of certain seats on the bus. And we don't want you to let go of control. We just want it to be delegated properly to other team members. And so letting go of certain controls of the lower value tasks, where anytime the business owner says, no one else can do it like I do it, it's like, great. However, let's figure out how you do it. And then we'll decide if nobody can do it as good as you. Maybe that's the case, but Dan Martell says 80% done by someone else is 100% awesome. So even if someone doesn't do it as good as you, but they can do it 80% as good as you, but it buys back a few of your hours every week, and then we take those hours and put those hours into a higher value activity. So let's say the task is answering phone calls. Nobody can answer phone calls as good as me. Maybe you might be the best phone call answerer in the world. Maybe that's the case. Okay, totally cool. However, if someone could answer those calls 80% as good as you, and then we pay that person $30 an hour, let's say, but then you're able to go over here and foster relationships with pre-existing clients and generate new business from current clients, whether that's through Ascension offers, selling them more things, selling them maintenance packages, getting referrals to new business, and you're able to maximize the lifetime value of your client by let's say your average client lifetime value is $10,000. You move that to $15,000. Now you have $5,000 extra per client. That's probably like $500 an hour work. So if you're paying someone $30 an hour, so you can focus on $500 an hour work, you're buying back the time. You're leveraging your time as the owner to do higher leverage activities. So 80% done by someone else is 100% awesome if you can do more higher leverage activity. So number one is control issues. Easy, off the top. Everyone has that in common if they're an entrepreneur listening to this. So we don't want to let go of control. We just want to maintain control of the high revenue generating activities. Control the revenue generating activities. Delegate the lower value tasks to somebody else that can own that for you. And that's the whole buy back your time method.
Yeah. How do you get somebody to let go of control?
So there's several different ways. I'll go behind the curtain. Let's do all of our tactics. So sometimes it's kick them right where it hurts, right? Like just straight up. Sometimes what I've done is I've drawn like an org chart and I'll show them, this is what your organization, these are all the roles, right? And I just did this recently. We have a landscape company. They did $4.7 million last year. And what we did is I asked them two questions. I said, give me all the roles that are like all the people that are inside your business. And like we just did it by name and also by role and responsibility. And then I asked them and we put it on a visual. I said, cool. How many of those roles or responsibilities, how many of those are reporting to you and how many of them do you still do? And then we put his name next to all their names. So he was able to see a visual of all the different places that he is now in. And just by him seeing the visual, he's like, do you see why you feel burned out? Do you see why? So that was one that we did. And the other one I did is I asked them, what is your sales process? Tell me from the first point of contact that you talk to someone when you answer the phone all the way through the sale. Walk me through and just tell me what you do. And then he told me and I documented everything. And he told me, and then I showed it to him. I said, now that you see what you do right now and you've done for 20 years and generated $4.7 million company, now that you see it in front of you, what are your observations now that you see it? And he's like, man, there's a lot of stuff in there that somebody else can do. And I was like, he was just by documenting what he's been doing. He's like, I could see it's not optimized. It's easy to see it now. So my strategy that I take with these owners that I know they have a lot of ego, it's to just let them see it for themselves. I'm not saying I have all the answers. You already know, you have the context clues, but just visually seeing it sometimes is enough. And that's what I've at least found so far. That's just one real example. I could probably think of like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more. I have one and a time audit that's really good from Dan Martell. I created my own version where it's like, I have a workbook. I could give it to any listener if you like, betterthanrich.com/time audit. There's no opt-in or anything. You just go to that page and it's like a 25-page workbook. And in that workbook, there's the first like 8 pages is just like all the bottom $25 an hour tasks. And then the last like 10 pages are all the high value activities. So it's just doing an audit of seeing where are you spending your time. So that's another activity that I've done. So anyway, I could keep riffing, but let me kick it back to you.
But yeah, I think like the theme that I'm hearing is you're just trying to help people have the awareness that it's an issue. And like, how do you get through to them so they can see it for themselves? Because they have to see the value in letting go and they have to see that it's actually part of the bottleneck for themselves. But I don't think people realize how much they hang on to and how much ego gets wrapped up in it as well, I think, and identity of what they're letting go of and what does that actually mean. So it's interesting how many other components come into what it actually means to delegate, because it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I should delegate. But then like in practice, people get hung up on it.
When it comes to in practice, every business has I would say the game of business is just like any sports team, any game, like, right? Like there's rules of engagement. It's not that complicated. Sometimes we overcomplicate it too much. I'll give you this. This is a story I've shared on several other podcasts and guest messages and whatnot. Not even a story, but just an example. I say two things. So who's the best sports team? Who's the best football team in the NFL? Well, right now statistics say it's the Eagles, right? Because they won the Super Bowl, right? So there's two things here. 30 years ago, running quarterbacks was really not a thing, right? And if you look at the two teams that are in the Super Bowl here, the Chiefs and the Eagles, they both had running quarterbacks. So these businesses, the sports team business, they adapted. They adapted to have key players in their business to be able to adapt with times. That's AI. In business world, that's AI. The running quarterback in football is what AI is to business right now. We must adapt if we want to be competitive and remain competitive in the marketplace. That's number one. Using the sports example again, if you saw the Eagles, can you imagine for a moment the coach calling a play and then saying, actually, Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to run quarterback. You sit on the bench. I know I hired you. I know we're paying you millions of dollars to be quarterback, but I'm going to run on the field and I'm going to actually do this play. And then, hey, kicker, I know I hired you and I pay you a lot of money to kick the ball, but I'm going to run in. I'm going to kick the ball instead. Even more ridiculous, imagine it's the owner up in the box running down to the field and saying, hey, I'm going to call these plays or I'm going to run these plays. So every time an owner of a business hires someone to do a job, but then steps in to do the job for that person, think about what message it says to you, to your people, to your organization. You don't have to think about it more than just that. What message is it sending? And more than likely, you would probably think about it and you'd probably say, the message is saying to my people that I think that they're incompetent, that I hired them to do something that they're actually not capable of doing. So that might make them feel inferior, or they might become too dependent. And that's why we don't trust them anymore, because they become lazy or incompetent. That's the message that they might be receiving. What message am I sending to myself? Only I can do this. I'm the person in charge. Only I'm capable of this. I'm righteous. I'm egoic. Right? That's the message I'm sending to myself, inflating my ego. And the message I'm sending to the business as a whole is it only functions with me and it relies on me. And I hang my hat on that. And that's why business predictability won't work. All I would say is come back to the analogy. What message is it sending? And then evaluate. And once you get into that seat and you can really evaluate and take a moment and step back and just think about the business as a sports franchise or whatever example makes the most sense to you, you'll probably say, maybe there's a better way of doing the same thing. That's why Wendy's drive-thru has AI and, taking the Wendy's drive-thru. That's why McDonald's has cashierless checkouts now. They have robots making the sandwiches and checking you out. They don't even need humans anymore. Though out in Colorado was the first one. Why? Because they simplify by asking themselves these questions. And that's what business owners really could do if they wanted to.
Yeah. I really like that analogy. Like, that hits home. I haven't heard it framed quite like that before. And yeah, it really highlights the thought process and the faults with the current one for a lot of people. I can tell you love this stuff and you're very passionate about it. What are you excited about over the next kind of 3 to 5 years for your business and the impact that you're having?
It's a good question. 3 to 5 years it's almost tough to think in that
or a time frame that makes sense for you.
No. And I'll say why. The reason why it's hard to think in that time frame is because the AI revolution is evolving so much. So it's hard to almost see how fast technology is evolving. So what I get really excited about, for 3 to 5 years is how many more resources and tools are going to be available to us in the next 3 to 5 years, and how it's a little unpredictable right now. It's like things are moving so fast. So I'm excited to stay on the cutting edge. I had a really great compliment from someone recently that said, you're in the top 1% of humans on planet Earth that understand AI. And I was like, I will take that compliment. I appreciate that, because I want to stay on the cutting edge of not all the cool new AI tools that are out there, but understanding the systematic approach on how to plug AI into the business because of the time rich 6. Because we start with the boundaries communication guidelines, great, but then the systems, playbooks team, and then the technology. Technology is going to continue to evolve, but plugging in that technology to predictable infrastructure is what I'm most excited about. So we are positioned in the marketplace to be the experts in systems, which is great. So even as the technology evolves, all that's going to do is make the systems that much more smoother and faster and stronger. So I'm excited about our business and with what we're doing with Better Than Rich and what we're doing with our owners that we're helping is that we're just poising them for more foundational success because we're building strong foundations with their systems ecosystem. I know I'm saying systems a lot, but like the foundation of their processes are being strong. And then we could plug in I'll give an example, like AI agents. Man, AI agents could do the work of, if we really do it, it's about 5 humans. One agent could do the work of 5 humans at the price point of like $200 a month. Like that's insane. And if you just do the math, what does a human work? 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. That's 8 hours a day. Right off the bat, if a bot is able to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, off the bat, that's 3x. That's 3 humans just because they could work more. But then how much more efficient they are, where you could have these AI agents answer a phone call, enter in the information into a database, send text reminders, enter into email sequences, so they could just book the calls, confirm the appointments, and follow up with the client, and then making sure that it sends the information to the dispatcher or to the technician. In this example, like it just happens automatically. It's almost like automagically, right? It just feels like magic, and that's where we're at today. Where we're going to be at in 3 to 5 years is just going to be that much more efficient, that much better, that much more accustomed in the marketplace. The marketplace is going to adapt. So it's just normalized. So what right now, where we call someone, it's like, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 for that. It's going to be like, hey, I'm your AI assistant. I'm going to be able to get this to you really quick. But you already are seeing like them doing gibber talk where the AI is kind of talking back and forth to each other and like booking hotels and all this stuff. So I am very excited and very encouraged by how much time we can buy back through technology enhancements that are going to be happening in the marketplace. And we need to plug them into predictable systems and documented processes and playbooks, because the home service space, that technology, like until we have microwaves that are talking back to us in every single home, or refrigerators that are like completely AI functioning, like where it's like Alexa refrigerators and dishwashers and all that stuff, that's like the Jetsons. And I think that's going to happen like beyond those 5 years, right? Maybe that's a little down the road, but during the next 3 to 5 years, home service business owners, man, they're in a great space. Plumbers, HVAC, electrical, landscape, pest control, all these like types of like home service spaces, their jobs are so secure. However, the ones that are going to be really competitive in the marketplace are going to be those that are able to have strong, predictable systems and then plug in this technology fast as it continues to evolve. That excites me.
Yeah. I've had a lot of conversations with other dads and like tons of excitement about like impact that this can have, what that can do for business, but it's also creating a lot of uncertainty, I think. But like, what does the next 3 to 5 years look like? It is changing so quickly. I'm curious about how you're thinking through raising kids in a time where there's so much change and we don't know what work will look like 5 years from now. Like, how are you thinking through that with your kids and what that means for them?
I'll tell you, I'm not really. I feel like I'm not really I don't want to say wasting. I'm not really investing too much bandwidth right now. The kids are 4.5 and 1.5 at the moment. But if I were to invest a little bit of time or a little bit of energy towards it, I would probably say that leveraging AI as a resource in a healthy way and understanding how to use it in a healthy way is going to be really important. What I mean by that is humans supporting AI. So I want to make sure that my kids understand AI is sourcing hundreds of millions of data points off the internet, which is awesome. And I also want to make sure that they're getting humans that have lived experiences that they're able to seek counsel from to pair with that AI. So AI is not going to replace the teacher, but AI is going to be used in also with whatever that teacher's doing. And I'm doing that right now. Like I meet with my rabbi. I'm meeting with my rabbi tomorrow as an example. I have a rabbi trained AI. So what I do is like the book, he gives me books, he gives me literature. I take pictures of the literature. I'm training my chat GPT. It's a rabbi learning bot that I've trained. So when we have a conversation topic and I'm like, I don't really understand this, I take a picture of it. I go to my AI and say, explain this to me at an elementary level, like I'm 5 years old. And then it will break it down to me to break it down a little bit dumb. And it's like, ask me some questions about this so I can ask my rabbi more intelligent questions the next time I'm with him. And like, I'm using it as a way to learn something new with a human and also pairing with AI. And that's what I do in my business. All of our virtual assistants are trained on AI. So it accelerates the learning. It doesn't replace the human. So there's probably a version of that would show up for me as I'm parenting and as I bring kids into this tech world. They're so young that we're not there yet, that I have to like really think about it through it and have all the answers at this moment. I think it's just wasted bandwidth at this moment, but that's what's showing up for me at the second.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And there's definitely something to be said for, there's only so much control that you have where you're putting your energy. Things are going to change, and like you can sit there like ruminating on stuff. But it is something that's come up in conversation with a couple other like dads at daycare where they're just like, man, this is wild. Like, how do we stay on it enough that we can coach and like help our kids navigate some of this? And like, what are some of those principles that we can instill that will be relevant no matter what technology is there? Like, what are those core things? That's what I always kind of come back to.
Well, this is super funny. More than anything, my business partner sent this to me. It's a picture. I know I can't share the picture, but it's some guy. His name is Yancey Martin. He put hashtag joke. I don't know who this guy is, but it was an Instagram. It says, realizing in 20 years, I'll probably be saying something like, no son of mine is marrying an AI chatbot. Marriage is between two humans only. And my kids will be like, OMG, dad, you're so robophobic. I thought that was funny.
But it's also like, yeah.
But there's something to be said. That's why I do believe that AI is really important. And I also don't want to take away human supported AI and lived experiences where, these kids, they could just trap themselves in a room and just have a conversation with AI and they just talk back and forth. I do that. I have a therapist. I have a human therapist, but then I have an AI therapist, and it's really helpful for me, but it's not to replace the human. It's to support and facilitate what happens in between those conversations. So there could be a dependency. I could see that. And so you see with social media, I mean, it's clear as day that if other humans can create and impede our dopamine and create these dopamine hits, imagine an AI that's trained to say exactly what we want to hear and treat us the way we want to be treated. And, I mean, man, the level of influence and impact it could have it could be very detrimental if it's not used and influenced correctly. And that's why humans paired with AI, I think, is really critical.
Yeah. Final question for you today. I ask this to everybody. If you were to listen to this recording 6 months from now or 12 months from now, what's the thing that you'd want to remind yourself of?
12 months from now. So I would want to say, Mike, you've been navigating over the last like 6 to 7 months some really tough stuff, and you've been doing a great job. And you've also started getting back into yoga and the ice baths and the meditation and like doing the things, but instead of doing the things to control, you're doing the things to feel and heal instead of doing the things to control, which is totally different. And I'm now 12 months from now feeling the benefits of those decisions that you're making. So great work there. Nice job. Also establishing all those connections with people like Fife and people like Phil and all these other individuals that you've been connecting with and learning from and learning with and creating collaborations with. Excellent work and fostering those relationships because they've been really helpful as you were planting your flag in the home service space. So keep that up, or thank you for that. It would be thank you for that because it's been really helpful to get me to where I am. So keep doing what you're doing, fostering relationships with yourself and also with others. And thank you that you did that. And I'll be sure to continue doing that.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Where can people check you out?
If someone's a dadpreneur, especially in the home services space, that's who I'm targeting right now and helping, is betterthanrich.com/GSD. If you need any help with any of the Time Rich 6, you want me to build a system for you, flow chart or an org chart, I do that for free because it's market research for me. So when you tell me what your problems are, it helps me realize like, okay, those are the problems we need to solve for, because we have like custom solutions that we install into these business owners' businesses. But so the more I can have these conversations with people, the better. So this is no BS, no pitch. You just tell me what your problems are. I'll solve for you and with you in a session. So betterthanrich.com/GSD. I'd love to help where I can.
Thanks so much for coming on and for just being real, sharing what you shared, and lots of value in it, but also like the realness and authenticity means a lot to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for what you're doing too as well. Thanks, Fife.